I think the first question that I want to ask anyone who's writing, who's a writer, is how did you become a writer?
Well, I started writing. I'm sure a lot of you have the same experience, right? That my favorite motto is a Stoical motto that I put on my watch. It says, "What hinders you?" So I try to remember that. Sometimes like you know, being human and full of sin and lazy and good for nothing, I try to remind myself that if I want to do something, I should just do it, rather than saying, "Oh, what stands in my way." So I started writing as a kid because I was no good at anything, and I got into the theater, and as a young child actor, and then I discovered the writings of the people who revolutionized the English drama, which were Beckett, and after Beckett, Harold Pinter, and they changed my life, because I read Harold Pinter's review sketches, where he could make you laugh and cry within 30 seconds and create this incredible atmosphere, and you couldn't analyze it. You couldn't say where it came. It was inspiration, right? It was in the Jewish, my rabbi would say, that's prophecy. Prophecy is not the ability to tell the future. Prophecy is some connection to the eternal. So Pinter, especially, after Beckett, had this great gift to create this magical world. And he did it in very few words, and he did it without stage directions, and he did it without directions to the actors, but yet it's undeniable what he did. So I said, well, hell, I want to do that. So I started doing it. And I went to a very famous theater school in New York for a year called the Neighborhood Playhouse School of the Theater. And I didn't understand anything they were talking about. I think one reason was because it was a school for actors, and they didn't have any talent as an actor. So nothing they said struck a responsive chord in me. But I learned so much from watching the other actors perform. When it was their turn to do it was my turn to do the scene, I learned nothing except that I'm terrified and I have no talent. But when I watched them, I tried to understand what was happening between them. And what I saw was, it was the same thing that Pinter was talking about. And that if you could write a scene where you took away everything except your understanding of the two people's objective, the audience would follow it. You don't have to tell the audience anything. And so because I didn't have any talent as an actor, but I didn't want to leave the theater, I became a director. I like bossing people around. I had a vision, right? Also, as an actor and growing up in the United States, I met a bunch of dreadful, dreadful acting teachers and dreadful, dreadful directors who couldn't express themselves and were cruel and exploitative. And I said, you know what? There's a better way to do this, and I can do it, right? I'm going to figure out how to talk to actors in a way that they can understand. I'm not going to ask them to do something that's impossible. I am going to ask them to do something that's fun. And because I know how to write, I'm not going to ask them to carry the scene. And so you don't have to carry the scene. You don't have to be happy. You don't have to be sad. You don't have to be impulsive. Just say the silly words, and it's going to take care of itself. And so I started doing that, and I formed a couple of theater companies, and I did a lot of plays. And then a fellow named Bob Rafelson was doing a movie called Postman Always Rings Twice in the late 70s, and he'd seen my plays off Broadway. And I said, give me a job writing the movie. He said, okay, sold. So I wrote the movie for him, and I started following him around the set. He loved discovering talent, and he put his arm around me and walked me around the set, and so I looked at him directing the movie. And like every good Jew looks at his or her boss, and what do they think? Anyone?
I could do that.
Of course. Hell, I can do that. So I looked at them and I thought, well, hell, I can do that. And then my next movie I wrote for Sidney Lumet, who also befriended me. He's a friend of mine for 30 years. And he took me along, and I started directing movies. And he also encouraged me to direct. So I fell into it by accident. So I've been doing movies and TV for about 35 years. And I still feel like a newcomer, because my original career was in the theater, so I feel like I came to the movies late, but I've been doing it a long, long, long time. And that's my story.
And now the transition from writing to theater and writing to the movies.
Yeah.
Is there a difference in your opinion?
Yeah, of course. The difference is it's all writing, right? I mean, if you're a woodworker, some of the same tools that you use to make a jewelry box, you're going to use to make a boat. It's working with wood, okay? But obviously there are different requirements. A jewelry box doesn't have to be watertight, okay? And a boat doesn't have to fit on your bedside table. So writing for the theater and writing for movies are both telling a story, but all understanding, as far as I'm concerned, comes from understanding the medium. What's the medium of the theater? What do you need? 2 actors. Beckett says you just need 1 actor, right? The ancient Greeks said you just need a 1 actor and a text. That's it. Do you need a set? No. Do you need costumes? No. Do you need lights? No. You need a text which will hold the audience's attention. The audience's attention is held by the text. It's not held by the actors. How do we know? Because you do a play on the radio. They can't even see the actors. How else do we know? You can read the text. And if the text is great, your attention will be held by the text without the actors. So writing for the theater is writing a text that the actors can perform in such a way that it will hold the attention of the audience. Writing for movies is scripting images, the juxtaposition of which will create an idea in the mind of the audience. So it's Eisenstein, right? You got a shot of a woman weeping, right? Whoop, weep, 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 weep. And the second shot of a hangman holding the door open and looking at his watch. We get the idea, right? She's going to be hung. You got exactly the same shot of the woman weeping, and you cut to the other shot of a little boy is going off for school for the first time. We get the idea. Her son's leaving home. The shot should be uninflected, and the juxtaposition should create the idea in the mind of the audience. That's how you write a movie. Can you make a movie without dialogue? You bet. A, we have silent movies, and B, you ever watch a movie on the airplane? Did you ever turn the sound off? It's a better movie. Not only is it a better movie, but the flaws become more evident, right? When you're watching a movie on the airplane with the sound off, you say, wait a second, I got it when I saw the first shot. They're having a fight. Why is this scene going on for 15 minutes? Okay? So I always say, if you want to know who really knows how to make a movie, look at commercials, right? They got 10 seconds to tell a story. Boom, they tell the story. We get it. They can't build up to it. They can't narrate. We were looking at a commercial in a movie yesterday. There's a guy coming around the corner. Dop, dop, dop. He's looking at his silly little machine, whatever, blah, blah, blah. There's a woman coming around the corner. She's talking on her cell phone. We get it. They're going to run into each other, right? So our mind leaps ahead. We think we know the answer. They run into each other. They knock each other down. And when they pick each other up, they've got 3 little babies, right? So we thought we knew the answer. It's our mind leading itself to its own destruction. We laugh because we thought we knew perfectly well what was going on, and we're rewarded by a surprise. So you take it, I get it, they're going to look into each other, they're going to bump into each other, they're going to fall in love, they're going to exchange notes, they're going to fall in love, they're going to fall out of love. But no, bang, they bump into each other. When they turn around, they got 3 babies, they need a better car. So it's an advertisement for a car. So that's genius thinking, right? So Emile Bernays, anybody know who he was? He's Freud's son-in-law. Son-in-law?
Yeah.
Son-in-law. He invented something called public relations. You know what public relations is? It's called, it's lying for profit. So he said that the only effective public relations is that which breaks the thought processes. You got to make the people stop. Wait a second. So you put that together with Eisenstein, and that's how you make a movie. It's a juxtaposition of images to tell a story in such a way that the juxtaposition creates a new idea in the mind of the audience, which didn't exist previously. So a plot, all drama comes down to plot. That's the only way you can hold the attention of the audience. You can't hold it through character, try it. You can't hold it through writing well, they'll go to sleep. You will and I will. You hold it through plot, hold it through making the audience wonder what's going to happen next. And then dashing their expectations in a way which is logical. So they say, oh yeah, I get it, right? Rather than say, oh, and then they all woke up, or and then he discovered he could fly, or then he's turned into a giant cockroach. So if you can do that moment to moment in a film, if you work very hard at it, you can take these moments and build them into a scene which has one objective. It stands by itself, and then the one scene leads the hero, because it fails, leads the hero to the next scene, doesn't it? Because if the scene succeeded, the movie would be over, right? I love you too, fade out, kaboom. So Billy Wilder, great Jewish filmmaker, said that the question in a love story is, what keeps them apart, right? We know what keeps them together, right? They're in love. What keeps them apart? So to write a film takes a lot of work crafting images, and if you're good at something, like writing dialogue, you better be very careful not to use it.
Which begs the question, because you're famous for your dialogue, you're quoted as a dialoguist, but before we saw House of Games, just before you entered, I told the audience, mind the structure, because we know that you write great dialogue, but look at the structure, look at how the movie is built. So how do you work out the gift for dialogue and the structure that has to be so rigid, you have to work it very, very hard at it to give
you gotta work on your weak points, right? Work on your weak points. I do it for a living, I was very bad at everything. I was doomed to be a failure. I discovered I knew how to write. I said to myself, this is a gift. If you screw this up, you deserve everything bad that's going to happen to you. You really do. So you better start writing and better learn how to do it better all the time. And when you make mistakes, you better learn from them, because there's nothing between you and poverty and disgrace and self-loathing except using the gift you were given as well as you can. So do I fail? Yeah, sure, just all the time.
Are there pointers you can hand out if you're good at writing dialogue, how to keep your focus on the structure, how to structure your movie, how to find when a movie works?
Yeah, sure. But I would like to say that I feel very, very free in sharing my opinions with you, because A, either you won't understand them, or B, you won't believe them, or C, you'll forget them, right? So that's great, which is your right, So that, or you'll think they're stupid or wrong, which is also your right. So I feel very free in sharing my ideas with you. So the question was, what are the tools, right? And one of the great tools is, if you think maybe you should cut. What are you waiting for? So that's why the way you learn to write drama is for writing for an audience, right? Go off to write drama for an audience, and when you see that audience starts to nod off, you'll want to cut your throat. That's how you learn. Geez, that was my favorite scene, but it puts the audience to sleep. So what good is it? When the lights go down, you've got their attention. They paid you the gift. You say, you got my attention. Go ahead. It's yours to lose. Can you keep their attention moment to moment? Because if not, the play's over. Anybody ever say, oh, you should have stayed in the movie, it gets better in the second half? Anybody ever say that? So I always say, well, then they should have put the second half first, right? So one of the first rules I learned is, how do you make any movie better? Throw out the first reel. People still talk about reels. First 10 minutes. Any movie, you can make it better by throwing out the first 10 minutes. Look at it. Next time you see a movie, look at it after about 10 minutes, say, well, hell, they should have started it here, right? And after maybe about 15 minutes, well, hell, they should have started it here. We went to see Ben-Hur, we lasted like 3 minutes. It's like a photograph of two guys riding through the Judean desert with a voiceover. How long do we need to see two guys riding through the Judean desert? right? A tenth of a second, right? Cut. If you think you should cut, cut. Now, here's the best way that I know to figure out immediately, it's infallible, if the story works. Tell it to somebody else. Say, I got this great idea, and watch at what point their eyes glaze over. That means either you don't know what you're doing, or you have to rethink it. Or you say, well, and then say blah, 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 blah. And so you'll find when you tell this story, if you have to tell it to somebody else, you have to tell it concisely. And there's only one thing in the world I don't like about movie making, that's pre-production, right? Because that's where the movie's made. All movies are made in pre-production. All movies are ruined in pre-production. So when you do pre-production, you're the director, you have to tell the same stupid story to 12 different groups of people who absolutely have to know it and absolutely deserve your full attention. So you have to tell it to the scenic designer, to the location designer, to the costume designer, to the lighting designer, to the cinematographer, to the transport captain, to the second AD, blah, 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 blah. And you have to keep going back to the locations and telling the story. They need to know, right? So what you find is more and more that you tell the story, the simpler the story gets, right? So the simpler the story gets, the better movie you're going to make. Because you're not going to say, and then things happen that I can't really explain, right? So somebody once said, I said to somebody, I said, what's new? And he said, every moment is new. And I said, except in a French movie. So what are French movies about? They're about people thinking, right? Who wants to see movies about people thinking?
My wife.
She does. Well, they're very restful. They're very restful. So you look at the great masters, and you don't. Anytime you come off a movie, and you say the visuals were great. What did that mean?
It means the movie was trash.
The movie was no what?
It means the movie was trash.
Yeah, the movie was trash. Visuals were great. You can take a picture of anything. So what? So in the United States, for my lifetime, what has everybody said about every movie they saw, with few exceptions? What? Anyone? It's not that bad. It's not that bad. For God's sake, you got a camera and a crew and a script. Make something great, for gosh sakes. So I always think that the toughest part, after you write the script, we all write the script, say, this is great. This is the best thing anyone's ever written. So you give it to your director, your friends, and they say, yeah, but I don't understand the thing about da-da-da. So you say, oh, okay, you don't understand it? Well then, how about never speaking to me again? How about that? How about going and cutting your throat not to recognize my genius? Then you think about it for a while and you say, oh yeah, that's superfluous, right? Yeah, I'll cut it out. And so the process of moving toward filming is to cut it out, cut it out, cut it out till you're just left with the story. A story that you can tell over a glass of beer in 10 lines and keep somebody's attention. If you can do that, you can make a movie, a good movie. And if you can't do that, you can't make a good movie. That's all it is, keeping the audience's attention because you understand the form. A bunch of pictures.
Your movies, the earlier movies had many twists and turns. Do you reveal, when you tell the stories to the transport captain in 12 sentences, do you reveal the twists and turns and how it turns
Well, it's
out?
not gonna hurt the movie to reveal the twist and turns to the transport captain, right? Because what each person is asking is what's the essence of the scene, right? Transport captain wants to know how many trucks he or she needs, okay? The scenic designer wants to know what's the essence of the scene. So there's two ways that you could talk about it. You say, it's the place where they all fall in love. Okay, how do you design that? You can't design it in general. Okay, so you say, what's the essence of the scene in terms of the plot? Right? It's the place where they meet in secret. Ah, I get it. They can't get married, so they meet in secret. So it's not the place where they fall in love. You're getting more specific. It's the place where they meet in secret. So now you're telling the story to each person in a way that allows them to use their art to serve the overarching element of the play, which is the plot. And all the plot is what the hero wants. That's all the plot is. Doesn't make any difference, and nothing else makes any difference. The audience won't pay attention. Because if you tell them the joke, they're going to pay attention to the joke, they're going to anticipate the punchline. Okay? So if I say to you, okay, two guys are on leave, okay? And they're walking down the highway, and they're hot and thirsty, and they're walking down the highway to try and hitch a ride through an area once controlled by Samaria. Samaria, an ancient land, blah, 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 whose customs differed from, right? What happened to the joke? It's two guys walking down along the road. You can't make Samaria interesting enough to make up for the fact you just ruined the joke, didn't you? So that's movie making is very, very close to telling a joke. We laugh because we think we understand the progression, and we're surprised at the end by something which is both surprising and inevitable, which is, we know by the best Jew who ever lived, Aristotle said that, right? The ending has got to be surprising and inevitable.
Your earlier work for Screenplays, you adapted other people's material, whatever, Postman Rings Twice or The Untouchables. Is there a difference, in your opinion, between adapting and creating your own?
Yeah, so the Untouchables, I made that up. The Postman Rings Twice, I adapted from a book, and also The Verdict, I adapted from a book.
So how do I do it?
Well, here's how you do it. Here's the problem. Well, thank you. Here's the problem. Is I always say, I used to write a lot of movies. Not so much anymore. I'm old and tired, and I need a rest. But I used to write a lot of movies, and people would say, "What's your deal?" And I'd say, "Here's my deal. You pay me a lot of money. I write the best movie I'm capable of writing, and you hate it." That was always true, because somebody buys the book. They aren't a script writer, right? They aren't a movie maker. They're an executive. So they're legitimately moved by a book. And what does the book say? When he looked into her eyes, he saw a reflection of everything he'd ever wanted to be, and it frightened him. Wow, the guy says, how do you take a picture of that? Right? At the end of the day, you got to take a picture, right? I read one screenplay that said, "Outside the window, New York, in all its vicious splendor." So the people who write books, people who buy books, buy them for the narrative content, right? That's what they like about the books, right? He remembered the squish, squish, squish of her sandals on the wet streets of Jerusalem. How had that city changed since the last? How do you think you can't take a picture of it? Right? If you can't take a picture of it, it doesn't belong in a screenplay. So the guy paid you a lot of money to write the best script that you know how, which he's going to hate. Reads, he says, "Where's that? Where's the squish, squish, squish of the sandals?" So he's got a legitimate point, but he doesn't know what he's talking about.
When you go to a producer or studio and pitch for a new movie, it's like a confidence game for you?
No, I'm always brilliant at a pitch because I never know what I'm saying. So it doesn't make any difference because they aren't going to remember anyway. But the pitch for the movie is really, it's basically disappeared. I mean, Hollywood's, it's basically dead. So the highest point in the movie business is who controls the distribution. So if you can control the distribution, you can control the movie business. So if you can control the cinemas, you say, well, wait a second, okay, if you want the Spider-Man, you got to take these 3 other movies, I ain't going to give you Spider-Man. You control everything. So if I say to you, here's a great idea, you don't care about a great idea, nor should you. You're in the business of making movies, right? Which is to say making money. So the movie business is basically a bank. They say, okay, I'll get my money over there. I'm going to bet it on Spider-Man. Are they going to bet it on my movies? No. Are they going to bet it on little movies? No. That's the bad news. The good news is you guys don't need money to make movies anymore. You can put it on the internet. Make them for nothing, put it on the internet. Why not? It's the equivalent of when I was a kid of putting on a play in the garage. It's brilliant. You got a good idea, do it. What's stopping you?
But then the question would be, how do you define success? Because if you want success, world recognition and perhaps money, then putting a film on the internet won't do it.
Well, here's something to bear in mind. Hollywood's like a casino for the young people. Once in a while, the casino has to pay somebody off, right? Why? What?
Working.
Yeah, so more people will come, right? So 10 million people come in a month and lose all their money. One guy comes twice a year, and the guy wins 25 million bucks. 10 more million people come every month. So Hollywood is an illusion, right? So what they're saying is, I'm not gonna, and we convince ourselves. We say, I want fame, I want fortune, I want money. Well, you know, gay gesund, as we used to say. You know, is Hollywood going to give it to you? Probably not. How many actors are working in Hollywood? 4? Probably not. So would it be nice to have success, fame, and money? Yeah, sure. But can you award it to yourself? No.
I have a personal question. One of the things I teach here in Male is script analysis. We read scripts and analyze scripts. And then I read them the passage from your book about don't listen to those who teach writing, screenwriting. Because they know everything that happened in the past, but they don't know anything that's going to be new, and you should invent the new.
Yeah, no, I don't think I said that. I think what I said is, I think what I said is go out and get your teeth knocked out. You know, there's nothing wrong with going to school. There's a lot of stuff to be learned in school. I learned a lot of stuff in acting school. I didn't learn acting, but I learned a lot of other stuff in acting school. And I love script analysis. Like, I drive my family crazy. Every time we go to see a movie, we come out and we say to each other, I mean, I say to them, okay, where did they go wrong? How could we have made this better? Right? And I think we get a kick, at least we meaning I, out of looking at that work and trying to apply my theories to somebody else's work, because it doesn't hurt as bad as applying it to my own work.
Who are your mentors in terms of screenwriting? Who did you turn to as when you read scripts?
Well, certainly Hitchcock, right, who's the master of keeping your attention, right? And Preston Sturges was a great American comic, and Lubitsch to a certain extent. And you look at the Wells' first movies, Ambersons and Citizen Kane. These are all the movies that you know. I mean, we got very involved. We're looking at Japanese cinema, looking at Koibashi and looking at Ozu, and looking at. I'll tell you my idea of a perfect script is Stray Dog by Kurosawa, because it starts with the most simple premise in the world. This new recruit to the police force has his pistol stolen, and he's, you can imagine he's terribly shamed and horrified, and the pistol has 7 bullets in it. And the murderer keeps murdering people. They got to get to the murderer, because he's going to kill 7 people. It's a magnificent movie, and a very, very simple premise. Oh, I got to say, at one point I was teaching, a few years ago, I was asked to teach an English class at a high school. So I said, okay, never done it, what the heck. So I was teaching this English class, and just about this time every day, people would start going to sleep, just like you, because that's the time we go to sleep. It's 4 o'clock. So I come home, I say to my wife, I said, what about if I passed out chocolate? Or I said, oh, I could, you know what I should do at that time? I should just be more interesting. So she said, go with the chocolate. So I did.
Professional question. What is your secret of matchmaking actors?
Okay, so Stanley Kubrick dies, right? Stanley Kubrick, one of the great filmmakers, genius. So St. Peter is guarding the pearly gates, right? St. Peter figures a lot in a lot of Jewish jokes. He's guarding the pearly gates. Nobody gets into heaven without they talk to St. Peter. So they say, Stanley Kubrick, welcome to heaven. We're so happy to have you here. I suppose you'd like to make some movies. So Stanley Kubrick says, yes, I really would. So St. Peter says, that's great. He says, who do you want to write it for? So Stanley says, who can I have? So St. Peter says, you have anybody you want. So he says, could I get Shakespeare? He says, yeah, of course, we'll get Shakespeare to write this script. So Stanley says, I kind of like, who can I get to do the music? St. Peter says, "You want Bach?" He says, "Yeah, I want Bach." He says, "Great, you're going to have Bach." He says, "Great, I'm going to do this great musical written by Shakespeare, music by Bach." And he says, "Oh, you know who I want for the female lead?" And St. Peter says, "Well, God has this actress."
So get a good producer.
So I hope that answers your question. No, I was very fortunate. When I first started out directing movies, I had people I'd worked with in the theater for many, many years. And I got enough money, but just enough money to make the movie. And I said, "Come on, guys, we'll all go make the movie together." So we made a bunch of movies together, and it's a great blessing. People I've worked with now almost 50 years. It's a great, great blessing.
Do you decide on the style before you shoot it, or are there times that you decide, you get a clear vision when you edit it? And if you could just give us a bit about the styling.
Well, I don't know what they say, and you'll find this yourself, you get to write a movie 3 times. You write it when you write it, you write it when you direct it, and you write it when you cut it. So you write it and write it and write it and get the best script you can write, then you go onto the set. And so what happens on the set? Everything falls apart, right? The dog dies, it rains, right? The actor doesn't like the line, you don't like the line, the main prop breaks. It's like Spielberg said, why was the movie so successful, Jaws? Because for the first 3 months, the mechanical shark didn't work, right? So he has you screaming at pictures of water. It's an act of genius. So you get to write it when you write it, then you do the best you can. You get on the set, you see a bunch of garbage and nothing works. You do the best you can. Then you get into the editing room and you're screaming at the editor, "Get me out of here, what have I done?" So you don't give up till you're done.
Yeah, but let's, if you could just specifically about the movie we saw. When the visual style of this movie, was it coherent and very obvious to you when you started shooting the movie, or did it?
It's the cinematographers, Juan Ruiz Anchia. I really don't understand about this. Things I really, there's only one person on the set who doesn't have to know anything, that's the director, because everybody else knows their job, right? And so if you're smart and courteous, they'll help you figure out your job. So I don't know how to take pictures with a camera, but the cinematographer does. So that he, Juan Anchia, was creating the style of the movie. And he doesn't know how to write dialogue. So there. But the other thing is that a lot of the things that people write about, and movie historians and so forth, and analyze, are complete accidents. They're just complete accidents. I was talking to the things that happen on the set. I was talking to Bob Rafelson about a movie he made called The King of Marvin Gardens. And at the end of The King of Marvin Gardens, this woman comes out of a shower and she plays the thing with her head in a towel. And I said to Bob, I said, I was so impressed by that. I don't know why it's right, but it's completely right. Where did that vision come from? That this woman had this long, flowing, beautiful red hair. All of a sudden, in the last scene, her hair is covered up. And he said she came to the set with a crew cut. Right? What's he going to do? So a lot of the stuff that you see on the set, that you see in a movie is an accident. And the other thing is, when you get into the editing room, a lot of the brilliant things that I found, that my cutter found and showed me, are found footage, lost footage. You say, "Oh my God, I need the corresponding shot. I'm in the wrong eye line. Let's go back into the bin." Whatever the bin is these days, and find another piece there. And you find something you didn't even know was there, right? And so I used to talk about, I don't know if they even have it anymore, thing called a slate piece. You know what the slate piece is? Slate piece, they say, okay, scene 2, shot 15, everyone's sitting around, okay? They turn the camera on, everyone's sitting around, but they haven't set action yet. They haven't slated the shot, right? So everyone's sitting around, the camera's rolling, the Sean sign's rolling, and they say blah, 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 scene 2, blah, blah, blah. And I say action. So, but there's a piece before I said action, right? Called the slate piece. And a lot of times you go back to the slate piece and you see something that's fascinating, you didn't even know it was there. Or you see somebody do something where the camera's out of focus, somebody do something in the So just like you discover things in the writing that you didn't expect, you discover things in the directing you didn't expect, and also in the cutting that you didn't expect. A guy came to me the other day, said, I'd like you to see my, it's the smartest thing I ever said. He said, I'd like you to see my, would you come see my movie? I'm cutting it, I have problems with 2 scenes. I said, throw them out. He said, what do you mean? I said, throw them out. I said, I don't have to see the movie, throw the scenes out. He said, how would you know? I should throw the scenes out. I said, because you're having problems with them. If you make a movie and you have a scene and you don't know where it goes, it doesn't belong in the movie, right?
Do you do a lot of research before you write a movie about con men, movie about Hasidic Jews, movies about...
I try not to do research. My great friend Shel Silverstein said to me, never do research, because when you do research, all you're doing is reading stuff written by somebody who didn't do research. So if I have to know the facts, I try to get the facts right. Sometimes I don't. I'm embarrassed. I want to kill myself.
But do you just sit at your desk and invent, or do you go out and try to meet con men and hear their stories?
No, I figure if I can't write more interesting than they can talk, then I'm in the wrong business.